Basquiat is a contemporary New York artist. The artist's works present a strong feeling of struggling and confusions. By reading the Journal of Basquiat, I realized that the artist will highlight the relationship between the anatomy and the death, which his artwork highlights the outside and inside of the human figure. Also, Basquiat is engaged in the African culture. It has strongly displayed on his work, especially the feature of crayon and charcoal filling. However, I haven't played this style in Unity before, even in Maya. I currently don't think it can be merely produced by shaders, as shaders only infect the surface of the model. I may redesign the models or redo the textures in Substance Painter. Kara Adolphs. I like how the artist presents the figures and the scenes, as I can't remember all the details of what I have done on the model in my childhood. The figure and the environment are blurred with less details to highlight that the artist painted the world in the memory. I want to combine the art style with the previous art style to identify the relationship between the art style and my theme of the project. Also, it is a good chance to research the combination of the art style. Daniel Richards' artwork produced an outstanding feeling of intentions, especially the chromatic figure in the background. They bring a feeling of arrogance and sneering. It reminds my childhood memory again. When I met issues or a failure, I can feel these ugly faces looking at me and sneering me because I'm a loser. In addition, I want to highlight the brushes style on my model because I always made a mess on the color, and the color dirt my model eventually. I have found some reference of Anatomy of Gundam, the robot. I'm inspired by these references and start to redesign my previous model. By using the style of Basquiat and those references, this is my first terrible concept I have. The reason why I want to use Basquiat style is because the complicating color pattern highly brings a sense of struggle and intentions to the audience. Also, it highlights the inside and outside of the model. The point of accentuating the inside and the outside is to exaggerating the confusions and deformations. As I haven't done well on handcrafting, thus using anatomy and the color pattern is the way of how I express the feeling of depressions on handcrafting when I was a kid. I try to play with the style of the Kara Adolphi by playing with the filter in Photoshop, and it does present a feeling of blurred memory. However, it doesn't strongly display the feeling of the depressions as the form of the robot looks much better than the first one. I try to play with the saturations because I believe it will present the feeling as similar as the first design. Yet, I stopped to continue it because the only differences I can merely see is just the color saturations, nothing more at all. I back to play with my first design by using filter again. This concept highlights a feeling of blurred memory and the inside as well, although the robot shows a blurred details of the inside. By continuing the design, I'm engaged in the design showing reverse color pattern. In addition, it has blur effect as it brings a sense of blurred memory and deform the model as well. Once I change the saturation of the blue model, these models produce a feeling of noise. Indeed, I don't like the noise on the television. It's just like I don't like to see the model that I made in the past. The concept accentuates the feeling of confusion and intentions. I want to rebuild the room, as I now want to see a museum as realistic as possible, rather than a simple shape. I have found some reference on Google, and I would like to see a minimal styles in the scenes. Because player will highly focus on the model rather than the other things around the rooms. Also, I also draw a simple sketch regarding the room set. I separate the room into two parts, including the room of Folio 1 and Folio 2. The differences between these two rooms is in folio 1, I present the perfect model and the other room display the worst model. In addition, the way of arrangement of the model between two rooms will be different to highlight the contrast and present different themes. Also, I want to highlight the time of failure in the past behind the gallery. I start to build a room in Maya. I reverse the face of the model as the room is big and the texture should face to the player. I also build a wall in the middle of the room with a small gate, which player can browse between two rooms. Once I finish the UV cutting, I start to play with Sustain Painter. I want to create a wall texture, but the tiling pattern terribly brings a sense of fake. I try to follow the one of the reference displaying marble texture. However, the wall presents a massive feeling which really ruins the feeling of minimalism. I've had add the emissive effect on the wall to represent the light in the museum. I import the texture in Unity, but the effect doesn't present the feeling of what I want. I stop the process of building the room and back to redesign the model. In the project, I have built two rooms and some models. The models in the gallery are the default types, and the models in the other rooms are the ruined or junk models, as I want to highlight the feeling of gallery and bad memory. Thus, the model in the gallery can't look like junks. With regard to the junks room, I create some new models, including the glitch effect models and the paintbrush effect models on the wall. They are all inspired by my concept and the reference that I have found. In response to the glitch model, as I want to highlight the art style from my sketches, I rebuild the model by duplicating the model and reversing the face of the model. Also, I add some machine parts, such as the gears, bars, joints, and engine within the model to highlight the inside of the machines and bring a sense of anatomy. By texturing both robots in Substance Painter, I can see through the inside of the robot. Also, it accentuates both inside faces and reverse faces the color patterns. Once I import the texture in Unity, I want to try the shader that I have learned in Folio 1, as the water shader improves the feeling of confusion. However, I turn to try another shader, which is the noise shader, because I believe noise shader can produce stronger feeling of struggling rather than water wave shaders. I use simple noise to control the positions of the UVs of the models to animate the glitch effect on the surface of the model. Nevertheless, the glitch values are different between both models to explore the effect of the glitching. In response to the painting brush model, I didn't use any shader in Unity. Instead, I paint in Substance Painter. The reason why they only have head and bodies is because I want to produce a feeling of unfinished work and bring a sense of art style of the Daniel Richter. Each model has its own facial emotions to highlight the sense of arrogance and sneering. In Unity, I place all the painting models on the wall and face toward the floor. Yet, I don't think they accentuate the feeling of bad memory. Maybe I need to redo the layout of the model in my next step. In the other room, I create some texture for the default models, including the hologram models, the galaxy models, the wood puppet, the yo-yo memory, the plastic airbag, and the burning Terminator. I love Galaxy, the gorgeous color illuminating in the space that bring a sense of peace to me. In order to improve the feeling of splendid stars, I use the emissive effect to paint the models and reduce the opacity of the model to highlight the effect of emissive. Because this is a robot, which is produced in metal. Nevertheless, I haven't tried the wood effect to texture my model. I use wood effect color the models and bring this feeling of wood puppet. It looks pretty good, so it also become one of the collections in the gallery. I have some metal yo-yo toys before. I'm interested in how the factory textured the yo-yo balls. I find some image that as a reference to texture my model and present into Unity. Terminator is a robot, which is also one of my favorite movies. In my childhood, I'm inspired by one of the scenes when the Terminator raises his hand with a big thumb burning in the fire. Consequently, I designed a burning metal effect in Substance Painter and import into my gallery collections. Originally, I want to produce an ice effect for this model. However, the ice cracking effect and the ice roughness are hard to simulate in Substance Painter. I was irritated by this failure again because I couldn't produce a feeling of what I want. However, I suddenly got an idea. Because it looks like plastic airbag, I added some barcodes on it in order to highlight that it is a product. So I name it Plastic Bag Collections. What I plan to improve is the lighting and the room settings of the scenes, as I want to highlight two different feelings of the room, including a gallery of my collections and a room of expressing failures. Currently, the room hasn't been designed well, which they hardly display the feeling of gallery and failure either. Thus, I need to redesign the room, drawing some sketched and focus on texturing the room for my next step. Furthermore, in response to the junk room, which is the failure expression rooms, I plan to relay out the model to accentuate the feeling of the themes. Also, I need to produce some parts of the model because they accentuate the model hasn't been complete build and brings a feeling of junks. I want player to play with some parts such as grabbing and throwing the part as well. Thus, I need to type some code in a future plan.